Hi, I'm Charlie.
And I'm playing Halbrand, and he is a human. I play a character called Halbrand, who's a human from the Southlands. I play Halbrand, and he is a human from the Southlands. Halbrand is a man from the Southlands, which are on the thing behind you, actually. And he is a human.
And he is human. We can say that, right?
He's a human.
Awesome.
Yeah. He's from the Southlands.
Well, everyone in Middle-earth is curious about Southlands.
Yeah. Where is he?
Yeah, we're all in it together. His shadow is definitely there.
I think that's something that's underneath the whole season.
You're going to read Sauron.
I've heard those interesting theories. I have, actually. I mean, I think that I don't want to answer it either way, because I think it's better to watch it unfold, because I think it's more fun for everyone if they just don't know where the show is going.
So there's like an elf group and a dwarf group. Can you talk to me about that? What's happening on those
I know
chains?
that there's a cast group. I'm not in any other. I'm not in a human group.
I'm not in a human group either. I actually think I should probably be removed from the WhatsApp group, because I don't think I've ever said anything serious.
I'm pretty low-key on that. I don't say anything. You can definitely watch this show without having read or seen any of the stories of The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. I think if you want some background to our show, the most useful things to read are the last two chapters of the Silmarillion, the Akalabeth and of the Rings of Power. And the Third Age, but obviously just focus on the Rings of Power bit. And then the appendices of the trilogy are amazing. But the whole thing of the Silmarillion gives you a lot of backstory.
I'll go with cats and or dogs, the less celebrated Tolkien creatures. Dogs like werewolves. Werewolves fall into that. And there's a cat called Tevildo who used to be around in the Silmarillion. Which was a house cat, a giant house cat.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and a collar and everything. This is legit. Yeah.
Did you get tidbits, or did they give you like a Bible to read about him?
I got not quite a Bible, but a lot of information. Yeah, there was a lot to wade through, as with all of Tolkien's works. I mean, it's so dense and so vast, the Legendarium. So there was a lot of reading to be done.
Well, was there one thing that you read in particular that you're like, yeah, that's him. That's how I've got to capture him?
I think there's lots of specific things, but I think that it was, rather than specific specificity, it was more like the vastness of the world. I found some really useful things in Tolkien's letters, actually, that really helped me with the character. Yeah, it's a strange one, because when I signed on, I thought I'm a massive Tolkien fan. I thought this is, I'm stepping into a world that I really know. But then you sort of sit down and you look at what you have to go through, and what I chose to go through, and you realise how vast the source material is and how vast the back catalogue of work is, from the Silmarillion to the letters that he wrote and all the trilogy and the Hobbit in between. There's an endless amount of stuff to go through. But it was a real pleasure and a real joy and privilege to be able to go through all of it, yeah. But then there's also similarities with other characters in the Legendarium, characters like Beren and Turin and Boromir, even.
What are the Rings of Power? I hope you know this.
You mean their names?
Vilya. I spent hours and hours and hours, months, years pouring through Tolkien's back catalogue of work, which is so vast. For me, it's going back to my character, to Hal. The real thing about making it connect to me was it's taking it from the page and from your research and making it into a physical thing. We would do hours and hours of fight training in the morning. Sword fighting, hand-to-hand combat. We have a big underwater sequence, so I had to learn to hold my breath for quite a while. And there's a lot of direct references that have been lifted directly out of the books as well. But they're quite nice, if you know the books, to keep your ear out for. Yeah. And of the Silmarillion, I think, as well, little parts.
Do you think it is about Tolkien's work that has proved so enduring, that people love so much? From your perspective, because you've been in it for like 2 years.
I think it's courage and bravery. You have people who kind of, it seems utterly hopeless, but they will go for it anyway. And I think that's always great to get behind characters like that.
The hope like against despair. I think at its core, it's stories of things we can all relate to, stories of love and of friendship, of hope. of despair. I think that's the beauty of Tolkien, right? You have these, it's incredible, vast worlds, but at the core are these really relatable stories.
Is there one that you're really good at?
One dialect? Yeah. I mean, there's one that I've developed and I've gotten a good grip on, but I don't want to say it yet because you'll probably hear it in the show. And I think that's what the showrunners and the writers of the show have done so beautifully, is it sounds like Tolkien's language. I guess that's quite reflective of my state of mind when I got the role, is that I felt a huge sense of excitement, and I was very honoured and to be able to become a part of this world. Felt it was a great privilege and a great responsibility, I guess.
Okay.
There were some hard names.
This isn't
Galadriel is hard to say, actually. What have you got?
I just like it on the raft. It's not your line, but
it's all right, don't worry.
The worm.
The worm.
Yeah, that's right. That was said a lot.
That's a good line. I would take Galadriel because she's a fierce warrior. I would probably take Elrond as well. And then I would probably take Disa. But I think that group of four, Halbrand, Disa, Galadriel and Elrond, would be a pretty cool team.
That's difficult. I think it's Charlie Vickers. He's such a sweet guy. Why did I just think of Charlie?
What was it like for you two developing that rapport with one another off camera before filming?
I think we'd known, by the time cameras rolled, we'd known each other for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Because we auditioned together a few times. And then obviously we moved to New Zealand. I think Morfydd was the first person there and I was the second person there. So
I'd been alone there for a week.
Yeah.
It was just going completely loopy, and Charlie arrived and was like, hi.
So we spent a lot of time there. And I think, did I live above you for a while?
Yeah.
In the same apartment building. I lived in the flat above. So I could lean over the balcony and wave. So we knew each other really well by the time we actually started filming, which was nice, which was important because we were stuck on the raft together with no one else around for quite a long time.
Yeah. But there was lots of talk about like who has the power at which point? Because I think it's quite push and pull in that regard.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
The other always thinks they have the power.
And I haven't touched salami since, actually. In the screen test with Morfydd, there was salami in the scene, or Halbrand was eating in the scene, which was then cut from later scripts. But it was big because I had to eat the salami, and we did like 50,000 takes. So every time I ate the salami, there was one poor guy on set that had gloves because I couldn't swallow the salami. So he had to keep coming up at the end of each take for me to spit the salami back into his hands, and then he just takes the penis.
I think he probably hates salami just as much.
I know,
as
he would have been gone. Yeah.
Will Halbrand eventually develop feelings for Galadriel?
Maybe. I mean, there's some sexy shots in the trailer.
They're flirting.
That could be interpreted.
They're always together.
Well, it's kind of like
they're on a raft.
If you're on a desert island with someone.
If you're on a raft in the middle of the sea for so long.
Shit, they are.
I would say that would be an absolutely banging storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we were really lucky that so much of it was practical. We were actually doing it. And the swimming, we were in this absolutely enormous tank, and I'd never swum in clothes.
Oh,
and I'd
wow.
never swum in a very long dress, and that was quite something.
Morfydd and Charlie, you talked about some free diving training that you had to do. Could you expand on that? And also, why did you have to do that?
There's an underwater sequence that happens early on in the show. And I guess it was in order to make us comfortable filming and acting underwater. I think we had to train to basically be able to hold our breath for the duration of the take, pretty much, which could be quite long. So
Charlie learned to hold his breath for like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Charlie
He's being humble. You guys you know.
You train by doing it statically, so you just lie in the water, you don't move, and then you can get to quite a few minutes doing that way. So then when it comes to actually moving and swimming, you don't last nearly as long. It's over much quicker.
I was lucky that I'm stationary in this, but I was underwater. Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say what.
So I was underwater for I think an hour and a half was the longest, with my eyes closed and just with an oxygen tank. And I thought I'd find it. I was like, this is going to be quite stressful and quite claustrophobic. And I just loved it. It was so peaceful. Like I was floating through space. Whenever they were like, do you want to come up for a break? I was like,
hold our breath and equalize and free dive and stuff, which was a real challenge. Yeah.
Who can hold their breath the longest?
Oh no, we were pretty close. You know,
30 seconds is quite a lot in a breath hold situation.
that's the period when you start to like
Yeah.
pee your pants.
The only time I did feel one of them was there was one point where I was doing lots of the swimming stuff where I came out and I could definitely feel it because one of them had filled with water. So it was just kind of like
I can hear the ocean.
Yeah, kind of saggy. But otherwise, no, you're not aware of it. You could easily just walk home in them, but people make sure that you don't.
No. I don't think I trust him just yet. Should I trust him?
I think that's best just to left unanswered that question. As I learned more about the character, as I was going through the process, I was desperate to know things and uncover things. But I think, so I know how everyone else feels.
Yeah. But there's lots of characters that I think you're like,
yeah. I think that's the beautiful thing about the show is you're a bit like, okay, hang on.
Yeah.
But certainly the dynamic between these guys.
Yeah,
is
she
I don't
doesn't
think she trusts him and he doesn't trust her.
Yeah.
So we're all on the same page here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're all a bit shady.
Yeah. I've watched those movies so many times that I'm watching them now. Like, they're so in my mind. To get into the armour, it took about an hour or more. And it would be like 4 people from the costume department dressing me. And so it was a real ceremony. I felt like I was going to war.
Yeah.
There was like, yeah. Yeah, I thought I was a fan. And then I was casting this and I realised I knew just like the tiniest amount.
Went from thinking I was a fan at the start to now realising, you know, I think I know a lot more than when I began. The Hobbits. I'm a bit of a homebody who just likes to sit around and do nothing.
I like how the elves are obsessed with beauty and beautiful things, but then I also can be quite stubborn. So I feel there's a dwarf in me too.
Sorry, when you watch yourself, for me, all right, it's it's quite painful.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So you're free of that. I was sat next to you watching it, so you were just crippling the whole time. I was just there, like smiling, and it was amazing.
I mean, I'm trying to think of there's nothing exciting. The first thing I did, I think, was probably go to the supermarket to like get some food for my flat. But I mean, New Zealand was such an amazing country to spend 2 years in.
How did you find out that your character was Sauron?
We filmed the first 2 episodes, then went on hiatus, and then with maybe 2 months to go of the hiatus before starting episode 3, before I started, the showrunners kind of said, we want you to come in, we want to have a meeting with you. And they took me into the set that Galadriel discovers in the first episode in the Northern Waste. You know, with the orcs through the walls and Sauron's sigil on the forge. They took me in there and they said, this is your world. You're playing Sauron. At the beginning of the Second Age, he'd been brought low and he lingered in Middle-earth, and his power then very slowly re-emerged. So we see him basically pitching his vision. And I think he wholeheartedly believes that he's doing good. He wants to rehabilitate and rid Middle-earth of all the wasteful friction because he's obsessed with order. And I think he genuinely believes that if Galadriel joins him, that'll help him affect his goals. I think they have a cosmic connection, but I don't think it's necessarily in his mind a king and a queen, like husband and wife kind of situation. I think it's more, I can use you to get what I want and affect my designs faster. Because ultimately, I think he would have ended up ruling by himself, whether she joined him or not. And when she says no on the raft, it angers him, but it's not the end of the world for him. I'm sorry about your brother. Or his second line on the raft is, looks can be deceiving. I know I had some friends text me as soon as I said that line saying you're Sauron, and I couldn't tell them. And for me as an actor, I mean, it's just an absolute thrill to play it, and I'm fully nerding out, you know, being able to talk about it all for the first time. He spent so many years alone and meeting people that are not like him, that when he meets someone with extreme, incredible power, you get a thrill, you get a rush, and you say, I want to be with this person. So she's survival, but also she can open doors. She can get him in the right rooms. She knows people, and I think he sees an opportunity to exploit that. We only have the first few scripts of the second season, so I don't really know exactly where it's going to go, but I certainly hope that they meet again, and it sets up this great relationship that would hopefully be able to endure over 5 seasons. And they can, when they do meet, they have this really rich history. But I imagine when they see each other, it's going to be frosty. It's going to be a icy relationship.
I fainted. That was the first reaction, and then just been celebrating ever since, it feels like.
Season 2, to be honest, I haven't even contemplated it yet.
Everybody had each other's back. It's not a doubt that we've gone past friendship into family.